Hello everybody, this is Maniac4Bricks, and I'm here today with set number 71244, the Sonic the Hedgehog level pack from LEGO Dimensions. This is ages 7 to 14, has 101 pieces, it is retailing in $30 in the United States, and is available in 2016. I messed that up a little bit, but let's keep going. So, we're going to be talking about the physical products in this set. We're also going to talk about a little bit of the gameplay. I won't be able to show footage of it on here, but I will talk about the experience of playing through the level pack itself and the different levels of Sonic the Hedgehog. So, let's get right to it, and I will be mentioning the alternative models towards the end, so stay tuned. So here we have a look at Sonic the Hedgehog, the minifigure. And honestly, the proportions seem just about right for getting it to a minifigure accurate form. They have just the right bits for making it look like Sonic on mostly the headpiece. That's probably the biggest deal out of all of it. And, you know, the torso printing is appropriate, but the headpiece is just the right size and molding that it fits onto a minifigure perfectly. Now, I'd like to say that this is a piece that was available in the bag itself as a separate bag. Like, inside of there, it was manufactured from somewhere else and was brought in to repackage with everything else. So, it's one of those kinds of pieces that's not, like, directly made in Denmark, but it is a solid plastic piece. You can actually, you don't really have room to squeeze it, so it is solid all the way through, and I appreciate that because it's good quality, and it's just a simple hole on the bottom to attach onto the head. So you could easily fit this onto other minifigure torsos and other LEGO pieces in general. Now, as great as this minifigure is, there's one thing I would like to change about it, and that's the ring. It is appropriate for the size compared to Sonic for the ring. I'm assuming that the Sonic that they're trying to go for when they were recreating this was supposed to be the more classic type, or at least somewhere in between that and the more modern 3D type, but mostly the elements here I can recognize from the classic type. So I think that's the reason why the ring is so big for him, because in the earlier days he was a lot shorter of a hedgehog figure. But that being said, in the level pack itself, I do have to note that these are the types of rings instead that are used with Sonic. They are the ones that you pick up instead of studs, and it is a good gimmick, and I think it's a nice little added detail, but it's something that is not included in the set, and I would have appreciated that, even if they made this life preserver piece into either pearl gold or something goldish, to at least make it look more like a ring instead of a life preserver, because let's look at it, and there's really not much to it. Now, there's also the game piece itself. You can attach this to your toy pad, and you can play as Sonic without attaching the minifigure onto there. And it does have some nice details, so it's easy to recognize that it's Sonic, and I really like how they add those little squares in the background. So here we have the Sonic Speedster, and this is a race car that was used in the Sega All-Stars racing games. This is something that Sonic would drive when he was in those games, and they actually do make a reference to the fact that, well, Sonic could just run fast in the game when you actually put this in LEGO Dimensions. He says something to the effect of, well, at least I can rest my feet. So, it is kind of fun. I'd like to note that I used a couple of 1x2 bricks just to increase the height for this model. They are not included in the set, so you can see a little bit more of it there. This actually has some nice detail to it because it captures probably one of the most iconic parts of the vehicle, the blue spikes on the back. It's supposed to look familiar to the Sonic blue spikes themselves. It's a clever design in which there's a couple of jumpers in between with a slope piece, and then you have the spikes are actually portrayed by small tooth-like pieces with clips on the ends, and they just sit down inside of here. You can put a minifigure into the space, the 1x2 is, but they would just be standing up. If you wanted to fit them sitting down, you would have to take out the slope pieces, or as some have said, you can also just take the legs off of the minifigure and have it more like this, so it looks like they're sitting inside of it, driving it, just like in the game. It's a good-looking vehicle. It does pretty well in the game. It's kind of, just has nice pieces to it. And we'll talk more about the alternative models later on. Up next, we have the Tornado. Now, just like the model before it, I've added some 1x2 clear pieces underneath so that you can see a lot more detail better. They are not included in the set. So this plane is from as early as, I believe, Sonic Adventure 2. No, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but it's available in other games. It's usually piloted by Tails, but in Sonic Adventure 1, it is explained this used to be Sonic's iconic plane. Before it got changed with Tails, it's been more customized afterward, but this is just the basic biplane. And it looks really good. It has some little bit out of proportion details. I think, this area could have been a little bit longer in the back, but for LEGO purposes, this makes it concise enough where you still recognize what it is and still be able to play it in the game, and it's not taking too much space on the toy pad. It doesn't really have any moving parts like the Speedster has some moving wheels, and you could obviously take that off to ride it around, but you can at least turn the propeller on the biplane. And you can also move some of the landing gear on the bottom, so you can move it upwards like this, just because they're on hinges. So it looks pretty good for what it is. It's easy to recognize, and I definitely like the little bits of color scheme in there for the yellow and red. Before we talk about the level pack itself, let's talk about some of the alternative models. If you would like to see the full assemblies of these on video, let me know in the comments below, and I will make a separate video showing each of them in the 3-in-1 style. So, starting with the Tornado, the next upgrade once you get enough studs and gold bricks is the Crab Meat. And this is an actual Sonic the Hedgehog villain. It is one of the robots in a crab style. From what I've played of it, it's actually really funny because this crab walks sideways. You'll push up and you'll see the body of it turn and walk into a sideways motion, much like a crab. It's very fun to play with. It has some nice projectiles, so it's easy to smash stuff up. The next model that we have is the Egg Catcher. This is also another kind of Sonic the Hedgehog villain vehicle, and it has some pretty good ideas for it. Mostly, again, just using a lot of lasers. I like the way that all the pieces are used in between each of these to get the right details. And, even though it's mostly supposed to be the Tornado. For the Sonic Speedster, we have next the Blue Typhoon. I don't quite remember this model from any particular Sonic the Hedgehog games, but it does have an interesting shape for it, and I like the way the pieces are used all around. It's a little hard to see from this angle, but they actually use all 4 wheels on the back of the vehicle to make some sort of giant rocket booster type vehicle, proportion. There isn't really enough space in there to fit a minifigure as much as, really, for any of these, there's space to fit a minifigure in there, but it does have some unique charm just by the way the pieces are used. And then on the third upgrade, it's the Motobug. This is another iconic Sonic the Hedgehog robotic villain. It's more like a smaller, I'm not really sure exactly what kind of animal it's supposed to be. I wanted to say crab at first, but we already had Crab Meat. So I think this one's supposed to be more of like an insect or some kind of small, low-crawling bug. And I really do like how, again, the pieces are used to get that idea across. So, look, they all work pretty nicely in the game. They are, pretty cool to upgrade and just to play around with. Obviously, you don't have to change the model itself once you put it into the game. You could just have it sitting like this, and in-game, it'll look like this. Or, likewise, you could do it with this, look like that. Or you can even just change the pieces themselves if you wanted to have more fun with building different ways. Now that we've talked about the physical toy, I would say if you wanted to buy this just for getting Sonic or the different vehicles that are associated with it, it's a little bit on the high side as far as the price point and price per piece, but it is a nice thing to pick up. This is probably one of the only ways you can get Sonic the Hedgehog as a minifigure, and the detail is fantastic. I don't think they could do much better as far as the head mold. I think they've just done everything right. But I would say, again, just try to get it at a lower price. It is nice to build it into those different models if you are a Sonic fan and you want to see those different robot enemies, as we mentioned just before. Now, talking about it from the gameplay perspective in LEGO Dimensions, here's what I have to say. The gameplay involves about 4 or 5 different levels that you play through, just basically getting the Chaos Emeralds back from Dr. Eggman. And there are some nice references to a bunch of different Sonic the Hedgehog games and characters all throughout. Most of the influence I've noticed is with Sonic Adventure. And that goes with not only what levels you're playing in, but also the music tracks that are used, and even some of the enemies that you face. For example, you do get to fight Chaos, and it's done in a similar style to the Sonic Adventure games, where it'll grow in size based on how many Chaos Emeralds it obtains, but that's something for a later half of the game. But for the first half, you get to fight a lot of different enemies from the iconic Sonic games, mostly from like the early 3D days and mostly the side scroller. For example, the first level that you go into is a Green Hill Zone. And what I've also noticed with this level, and I think the next level or so, they remix some of the older music. So you don't get the master tracks of Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1 or the bonus stage music from Sonic 2. But instead, you get these similar tracks that are just kind of remastered or redone rather to give some new life to each of them. And I think that's pretty cool. I think the style for all of it worked out pretty well. They do actually poke some fun at Sonic logic, as I would like to call it. For example, Sonic being afraid of water because it's a very big drowning thing, and they actually show a moment in there where Sonic's just looking at a bunch of water that he needs to go through, and he's just freaking out. So it's a lot of fun just to see it in between those cutscenes. Or you get to meet up at one point with Omochao, the annoying robot tutorial character, and even Sonic gets irritated of him. So I think that's actually fun that they incorporate those elements into the gameplay. And it's actually a lot of fun to play through the levels. As far as the Adventure World, I only played a little bit of it. You don't really get to see a lot of the characters do a lot of voice acting or just gameplay or whatever in the level pack or in the level itself, but you see them more in the Adventure World. For example, I was playing one mission where I had to find Froggy, the companion to Big the Cat. Then I had to go to a couple different places in order to find him because he kept hopping away. So it was a lot of fun to play it. I'm looking forward to playing more of it, and we'll see you next time with more LEGO videos. If you would like to learn more about LEGO Dimensions, let me know in the comments below what other LEGO Dimensions packs you would like me to review, and you can also check out some of the LEGO Dimensions videos that I've done on the channel. If you would like to see the alternative models to each of these, I will happily do a separate video talking about those. We'll see you next time with more LEGO videos. Gotta build fast.